Alright, so here we are. It's May 19th. I'm going to be planting two little spots out here into sorghum tonight. This is my first year ever trying grain sorghum. Milo, grain sorghum, Milo, they're both the same thing. I have planted some tall sorghum just for screening years ago out here, but I've never actually tried grain sorghum or Milo. Basically you're just growing it for the seed head. In fall and into winter they'll eat on it. I got a couple rows of corn right here, and then on the edge next to the driving trail, this will be a little patch of sorghum here, probably I don't know, 1/10 of an acre. And I got soybeans and a little bit of corn there, a couple rows of corn, and most of this plot's soybeans right here. So it'll be a good test. A lot of deer come out right here in the evenings. These two fields usually get hit pretty hard. And then my other little patch of sorghum will be over that way, a couple hundred yards on the other side of that tree line. That's a pretty small spot. That's like, whatever, 15 by 20 yard circle of it, basically. Right next to some corn as well. So basically, I disked all this up this past weekend. I'm just going to broadcast the sorghum. They're really small seeds. And just cultipack them in. Basically I'm spraying it with simazine for pre-merge. We're supposed to be getting hit pretty hard the next 2 days with rain. They're saying 1 to 2 inches, so I should get some pretty good weed control with the pre-emerge that I put down later today. So I'm gonna get seed in here. I'll give you a quick look at what the seed looks like. So here's a look at the seed. Pretty small seeds. Not quite as big as a soybean, not nearly as small as brassicas or clover. It's supposed to be 1 to 2 inches deep. It'll probably germinate just fine at a 1/2 inch, but right on top, I don't know if it'll germinate. I mean, you'd have to get a lot of rain like we're getting. So that's why I'm not going to disc this stuff in. If I disc it in, I'm afraid a lot of it will end up, 3 or 4 inches deep. Disking in the soybeans works fine. I would assume when you disc, probably most of them end up right around, probably 1 to 2 to 2.5, maybe 3 at the most. I'm not sure, but anyways, got some spillage here. I'm gonna plant. The recommended rate is 5 to 10 pounds per acre, so I'm gonna go with 8 pounds to the acre. With these two spots combined, I should go through just basically a 1.5 pounds of this. And it's gonna be hard to calculate 1.5 pounds, so I'm just gonna go kind of by feel. This stuff's supposed to get 4 to 5 feet tall. It's gonna, probably be planted a little bit thicker than corn, but you can definitely overseed this stuff too. You can overseed anything, really, anything but clover and grass. So I'm gonna go kind of by feel. So hopefully I don't put this stuff in too thick. Like I said, it's my first year. I'd rather actually have it too thin than too thick. Nothing's planted too thick is good, so. So right here's a quick look at the seeding rate. I don't know if you can see that, but there's 3 of them there. Nothing, maybe, it's honestly hard to see them already. There's 1 here, 1 here, right there, 2 of them down there. So I guess it's hard to see right now, but you'll see in a couple weeks what it looks like when it starts coming up. We'll be able to see if it's too thick. I honestly don't know what too thick looks like in sorghum, because like I said, I haven't really grown it much. So this whole field got I think like 3 or 4 bags of 9-23-31 fertilizer. It's mostly soybeans. I'm gonna come through here and put some extra urea down on this where I'm planting the sorghum, and a lot of it, or half of it, will get somewhat worked in when I run the cultipacker through. Plus, like I said, we're getting a ton of rain. I'm gonna throw some extra urea down on this corn and it'll all get watered in. I got a couple rows of corn, cutting this soybean field in half. I'm gonna throw some urea down on that today too. And that'll all get rained in over the next 2 days. This is the first time this spring that they're actually saying 100% chance of 1 to 2 inches, because it's going to be an all-day washout tomorrow. So we'll definitely going to be getting some rain the next 2 days. Perfect time to get some urea down. All right, so here's the second spot. These 2 spots are the only spots on the farm, I believe, out here that I'm going to be doing sorghum this year. I'll have sorghum and a couple small spots on other properties, but out here, this spot and the first spot I showed you, that's it. This is completely different type of ground here. It's, you know, just black peat ground right next to some clover here. And then the rest of this little plot, this is the first year I tried corn in here too. This used to be just solid buckthorn, but we had a lot of this. It's only like an acre, mowed down like 2 or 3 years ago. In this area we converted to a little micro plot along with the clover. There was an existing small plot here. This just expanded. We just expanded it all right out to the bigger field out there. So I got corn about up to this goofy corner right here. Basically right here is where I picked up the planter. So basically from here to that little apple tree, just a little tiny rectangle here of sorghum, be a good test, because a lot of deer come out right here to these food plots. The other area I was just at was literally not even that's like a quarter mile at the most that way. So it's all the same deer. Sometimes they come out here, sometimes they come out over there. But yeah, it'd be a good little test. A plot right next to bedding and a plot right where a lot of deer come out. So if the deer like the sorghum, you know, it's gonna be definitely something I utilize more in the future. Anyways, let's get seeding. Hopefully this all turns out pretty good. Alright, so here we are with a quick sorghum plot update. This is that stretch I have on the drier ground. I'm not sure if I showed this yet in the video, but in this wetter field right here, I got a similar little patch of it right here. And there's a lot more weeds. Well, there's weeds in all this stuff. This plot I sprayed with 2,4-D when it was just coming up, like a couple inches tall. And that set the weeds back for quite some time. It stunted. I sprayed the corn that day too. That's what that taller stuff is over there. That's corn, obviously. It stunted everything for a little bit, and the weeds eventually came back in. So I think it was about a week ago, I came in with the backpack sprayer and just with the wand went through here like this. Try not to get, you know, too much of it on the plant, because once the plants get this tall, you don't want to get any 2,4-D or very minimal amount of it. And it was already brown like this last week, so I don't know what fungal disease or nutrient deficiency that could be. I don't know what's causing that. It's mainly on this wetter ground. You go up to the drier plot, you'll see in a second it's not as bad. But here's all the water hemp that's dying out. So I'm gonna come through here today and seed a lot of this bare spots with brassicas, and hopefully they can take off and I can get something growing in here other than weeds. So same thing with this earlier planted stuff. It's kind of got that same brownish stuff on the leaves on this lower end. And you can see some of these are just starting to put out seed heads now. And you can see all the weeds in here. I never did spray this with 2,4-D or nothing. All I did was hand pull what I could. And I obviously didn't get enough, but I got enough to get the sorghum past the weeds where it's going to produce something. It looks like a lot of seed heads starting to come out. This is a pretty big one already. And as I work my way up, this is drier ground up here than what it is down there, and that brown stuff on the leaves is starting to disappear as I go up further and further, and the sorghum actually looks better up here. It's thicker and it's darker green, and I would assume it's gonna probably do a little better up here once it starts shooting up seed heads. It's really close to doing that on a lot of these plants, and for whatever reason there's a couple plants right here that are a little taller. But yeah, this whole stretch right here, like I said, I never sprayed with 2,4-D, just hand pulled weeds, probably like an hour and a half worth of hand pulling, which was kind of a pain for this small plot. I got to figure out something better. You know, even the backpack spraying isn't really ideal because it takes a while. I'll take you over to that third patch here in a second. That plot looks really good. All right, so here's the final spot of sorghum. There was quite a bit of weeds in here that I did hand pull in this plot as well, which is kind of a pain. Like I said, I got to figure out a better pre-emergent to use. I used simazine, but a lot of this ground was pretty saturated when I planted, and I found that out this year comparing my dry corn plots to my wetter corn plots. The drier ground, the simazine did a really nice job and held back weeds really nice. In the wetter areas, I was left with a ton of weeds that germinated, and that was exactly what happened here. So it probably could be just because it was saturated ground. The pre-emergent really wasn't that effective. But anyways, came in here, hand pulled weeds, and then I sprayed out with the backpack sprayer what I could, like when these plants were smaller, going in between the plants like this and hitting a lot of small weeds like that. Like those weren't even there probably when I was doing that. And same thing here, we got some brown on some of these leaves. I don't know what this is. I could probably look it up and maybe figure it out, but overall this is probably the best looking patch in some of these areas. And then the planter didn't quite pick up, so I got some NutriCrave corn growing amongst the sorghum. I got seeded all the way back into here, so it's kind of neat. I guess we got sorghum and corn growing together here, so this will be kind of interesting. I got sorghum all the way into here, and these rows, this old planter has a hard time picking up sometimes, so it planted into my sorghum patch a little bit, but that's all right. You can see a lot of these are getting really close to shooting a seed head out. It's probably the seed head's right in there getting ready to come out. So looks like we got a little bit of nitrogen deficiency. I think that's what this could be right here. That brown stuff on the leaves out there I don't think is nitrogen. I don't know, it could be, but I did put down quite a bit. The day I planted, I put quite a bit down because we're going to get good rains, and then I came out a couple weeks later and broadcasted urea over everything, the corn, the sorghum, pretty heavily. So that's why I guess some of this looks good, but maybe right there I didn't get enough. That could be a nitrogen deficiency, I'm not sure, because those plants do look kind of yellower, where these are nice dark green. So that could be all it is. So I might have another update of the sorghum in this video, or maybe I'll just get it out. But like I said, you'll see more of these. You'll see this sorghum this winter. We'll see how much the deer really hit on it. And obviously these are really tiny little test plots. Like I said, it'd be hard to plant a ½ acre of this stuff because you can't really spray it with much to get the weeds under control. And you can see there would have been weeds like this, if not bigger, everywhere in all these sorghum patches if I wouldn't have did anything. So it's kind of a labor intensive food plot crop to grow. So I have to figure it out if I want to plant more of this stuff in the future or not. We'll see how the deer hit it this winter though. Alright, so this will be the final update of these two sorghum patches, this one and the other one on the other side of the property. Like I said in the last update, I don't know if I'll include that footage or not, but I had to hand pull quite a few weeds in both these plots, which was really not ideal. I thought the simazine would have held back the weeds a little better, but maybe I just didn't put it down strong enough, because it does a pretty good job on my corn plots, but then again the corn does come up and grow quite a bit faster. This stuff had a pretty slow start, a surprisingly slow start. I thought it would have, germinated and came up a little more faster, but it's up and it's looking good now. All right, so here it is. You can see Some of these areas were probably about perfect for seeding rate. It filled in really nice. Most of it's about waist to chest high. So right in the deer's face, they'll be able to reach all these seed heads. This is supposed to be the red sorghum. Maybe it'll turn red eventually. It's obviously still, you know, still in the dough stage. It's got a ways to go to mature and heart and dry down. And every once in a while you'll see one of these taller ones up about 6 or 7 feet for whatever reason. That one grew taller. And you can see we got some foxtail in here, but not too bad. Hand pulled quite a few pigweeds out of here. Overall, this will be a really interesting test because, like I said, when I planted this here, a lot of deer come out right here in the evenings, and this, you know, they'll work their way. They'll have these soybeans gone probably before Christmas, and then this will be the next thing, that next available food before they get into the corn, and more soybeans on the other side of the corn. So this will be a pretty high deer traffic area, more deer traffic here than the next spot I'll take you to. And then the sorghum's a little bit shorter down here. It gets a little bit wetter, and there was more weeds here, and you can see there's still more weeds here. Up there it was more weed free. So that's probably why the sorghum looks a little better where I started. And then this is what I call the swampy wet field. I didn't originally plan on putting sorghum on this edge here, but this first, whatever this is, 50 or 60 yards by about 10 to 15 yards is sorghum. And this ended up being a lot thinner than what I would have liked. So I did come through here. I did spray this sorghum with 2,4-D when it was, you know, probably like 6 to 10 inches tall. It kind of stunted it, but didn't really screw it up that bad. And that held back the weeds good for a little bit, and then I had to come back through with the backpack sprayer and go around these. You can see some of these plants are still kind of messed up looking. I had to go around all these plants, otherwise it would have really filled in with weeds. And about a week after I did that, I seeded some brassicas in. So I'll have brassicas filling in all these thin spots. We just got a ton of rain. You can see how wet this ground is. But overall, this stuff's looking pretty good too, considering how many weeds have been in this field in certain years. A lot of water hemp. And this stuff was probably planted about 2 to 3 weeks behind that stuff. Those seed heads have been up for a couple weeks now. But yeah, this stuff's at least 2 to 3 weeks behind that planting and the next planting I'll take you to, which is right over there. Alright, so here is the wetter patch. If you remember when I worked all this ground up, when I planted it, it's like basically just straight black peat ground. I did pull quite a few weeds in here too. A lot of pigweeds and water hemps. This plot and the very first spot I showed you, I did not spray any. Oh, actually I take that back. I did spray with the backpack sprayer, come through here and in between the plants. So this has had a lot of, you know, manicured maintenance to look this good. Otherwise there would have been water hemps like this all over in here, probably 5 and 6 footers taller. This stuff would have been stunted real bad. It wouldn't have turned out. I had to get in here, and so if I plant sorghum in the future, I got to figure out a better pre-emerge or something. This wet saturated ground, the pre-emerge herbicides don't really work that good in this wetter ground plots. This clover right next to it's really looking good. There's a lot of deer hitting it. So we'll have clover, sorghum, and this is actually all NutriCrave. And I didn't, the planter's a old kind of crappy planter, didn't pick up right away on some of these turns right here. So I actually have sorghum all the way up to about here in this corn a little bit. And you can see right in here mixed with the corn, there's a few sorghum plants here and there. Obviously these ones in here didn't do as good, but pretty interesting to have both of them growing right here. So yeah, this is most of the deer, I guess they come out right there, and there's a lot of deer that come out into our other field over there. So I'll have both these plots and all my plots updates this winter. We'll see how much these deer really eat on these seed heads. It might be just a lot of the birds, you know, landing here and cleaning them up. I don't know how much the deer are really going to eat on them. It's the first year I've ever had it on the property, so we'll see how they react. But yeah, everything's looking fantastic. Like I said, I'll have lots of brassica videos coming soon, so stay tuned.